Okay, so I think we're live. Hey guys, hi. This is Parag here, and today we are going to discuss this particular passage from this book, 12 Rules for Life. And this passage is called Chaos and Order, Personality, Female and Male. The reason I'm choosing this particular passage, I just feel that there is a lot of in today's world there's a lot of confusion from the whole, like, the roles, gender roles, and a lot of things. And I feel that there are some people, some thought leaders in today's world who try to bring some kind of clarity uh, by going by giving us, like, coming at it from a like they come at it from a more philosophical point of view. So sometimes I feel turning back to philosophy is a good idea to understand, and that's what we are going to do today. So yeah, let's go. Chaos and order are two of the most fundamental elements of lived experience, two of the most basic subdivisions of being itself. But they are not the things or objects, and they are not experienced as such. Things or objects are a part of the objective world. They are inanimate, spiritless. They are dead. This is not true of chaos and order. Those are perceived, experienced, and understood to the degree that they are understood at all as personalities. And that is just as true of the perceptions, experiences, and understanding of modern people as their ancient forebears. It's just that modernists don't know this. Order and chaos are not understood first, objectively, as things or object, and then personified. That would only be the case if we perceived objective reality first, and then inferred intent and purpose. But that isn't how perception operates, despite despite our preconceptions. Perception of things as tools, for example, occurs or in concert with perception of things as objects. We see what things mean just as fast or faster than we see what they are. Perception of things as entities with personality also occurs because perception of things as things. This is particularly true of the action of others, living others, but we also see the non-living objective world as animated with purpose and intent. This is because of the operation of what psychologists have called the hyperactive agency detector within us. We evolved over millennia within intensely social circumstances. This means that the most significant elements of our environment of origin were personalities, not things, objects, or situations. The personalities we have evolved to perceive have been around in a predictable form and in typical hierarchical configurations forever, for all intents and purposes. They have been male or female, for example, for a billion years. That's a long time. The division of life into its twin sexes occurred before the evolution of multicellular animals. It was in a still respectable one fifth of the time that mammals, who take extensive care of their young, emerged. Thus, the category of parent and or child has been around for 200 million years. That's longer than birds have existed. That's longer than flowers have grown. It's not a billion years, but still a very long time. It's plenty long enough for male and female, and parent and a child, to serve as a vital and fundamental parts of the environment to which we have adapted. This means that male and female and parent and child are categories, for us, natural categories, deeply embedded in our perceptual, emotional, and motivational structures. Our brains are deeply social. Other creatures, particularly other humans, were crucially important to us as we lived, mated, and evolved. Those creatures were literally our natural habitat, our environment. From a Darwinian perspective, nature, reality itself, the environment itself is what selects. The environment cannot be defined in any more fundamental manner. It is not mere inert manner. Reality itself is whatever we contend with when we are striving to survive and reproduce. A lot of that is other beings, their opinions of us, and their communities. And that's that. Over the millennia, as our brain capacity increased and we developed curiosity to spare, we became increasingly aware of and curious about the nature of the world. What we eventually conceptualized as the objective world outside the personalities of family and troop, and outside is not merely an explored physical territory. Outside is the outside of what we currently understand. And understanding is dealing with and coping with and not merely representing objectively. But our brains had been long concentrating on other people. Thus, it appears that we first began to perceive the unknown, chaotic, non human world with the innate categories of a social brain. And even this is a misstatement. When we first begin to perceive the unknown, chaotic, non animal world, we used categories that had originally evolved to represent the pre human animal social world. Our minds are far older than mere humanity. Our categories are far older than our species. Our most basic category, as old in some sense as the sexual act itself, appears to be that of sex, male and female. We appear to have taken that primordial knowledge of structured creative opposition and begin to interpret everything through its lens. Order, the known appearances symbolically associated with masculinity, as illustrated in the aforementioned yang of the Taoist yin yang symbol. This is perhaps because the primary hierarchy. This is perhaps because the primary hierarchical structure of human society is masculine, as it is among most animals, including the chimpanzees, who are our closest genetic and arguably behavioral match. It is because men are and throughout history have been the builders of towns and cities, the engineers, stonemasons, bricklayers, the lumberjacks, the operators of heavy machinery. Order is God, the Father, the eternal judge, the ledger keeper, and the dispenser of rewards and punishment. Order is the peacetime army of policemen and soldiers. It's the political culture, the corporate environment, and the system. It's the they in you know what they say. It's credit cards, classrooms, supermarket checkout lineups, turn taking, traffic lights, the familiar routes of daily commuters. Order, when pushed too far, when imbalanced, can also manifest itself destructively and terribly. It does so as a forced migration, the concentration camp, and the soul devouring uniformity of the goose step. Chaos, the unknown, is symbolically associated with the feminine. This is partly because all the things we have come to know were born originally of the unknown, just as all the beings we encounter were substance from which all the things are made. It is also what matters, or what is the matter, the very subject matter of thought and communication. In this positive guise, chaos is possibly itself the source of ideas, the mysterious realm of gestation and birth. As a negative force, it's the impenetrable darkness of cave and the accident by the side of the road. It's the mother grizzly, all the compassion to her cubs, who marks you as potential predator and tears you into pieces. Chaos, the eternal feminine, is also the crushing force of sexual selection. Women are choosy maters, unlike female chimps, their closest animal counterparts. Most men do not meet female human scent of men. Sorry, most men do not meet female human standards. It is for this reason that women on dating sites rate 85% of men as below average in attractiveness. It is for this reason that we all have twice as many female ancestors as male. Imagine that all the women who have ever lived have averaged one child. Now imagine that half the men who have ever lived have fathered two children, if they had any, while the other half fathered none. It is the woman as nature who looks at half of all the men and says no. For the men, That's a direct encounter with chaos, and it occurs with devastating force every time they turned on for a date. Human female choosiness is also why we are very different from the common ancestors we share with our chimpanzee cousins. While the latter are very much the same, women's proclivity to say no more than any other force has shaped our evolution into the creative, industrious, upright, large brained, competitive, aggressive, domineering creatures that we are. It is nature as the woman who says, well, Bako, you are good for a friend, but my experience of you so far has not indicated the suitability of your genetic material for continued propagation. It means she does not want to have sex with you and want to bear your child. Does not. The most profound religious symbols rely for their power in large part on this underlying fundamentally bipartisan conceptual subdivision. The Star of David is, for example, the downward pointing triangle of femininity and the upward pointing triangle of the male. It's the same for Yoni and Lingam of Hinduism, which come covered with snakes, are ancient adversaries and provocators. The Shiva Linga is depicted with snake deities called the Nagas. The ancient Egyptians represented Osiris, the god of the state, and Isis, goddess of the underworld, as twin cobras with their tails knotted together. The same symbol was used in China to portray Fuxi and Nuwa, creators of humanity and of writing. The representations of Christianity are less abstract, more like personalities, but the familiar Western images of the Virgin Mary with the Christ child and the Pita both expresses the female-male dual unity, as does the traditional insistence on the androgyny of Christ. It should also be noted, finally, that the structure of the brain itself at a gross morphological level appears to reflect this duality. This, to me, indicates the fundamental, beyond the metaphorical reality of this symbolically feminine masculine divide. Since the brain is adapted, by definition, to reality itself, that is, reality conceptualized in this quasi Darwinian manner, Algernon Goldberg, student of the great Russian neuropsychologist Alexander Luria, has proposed quite lucidly and directly that the very hemispheric structure of the cortex reflects the fundamental division between novelty, the unknown or chaos, and routinization, the known order. He doesn't make reference to the symbols representing the structure of the world in reference to this theory, but that's all the better. An idea in more credible women An idea is more credible when it emerges as a consequence of investigations in different realms. We already know all this, but we don't know we know it. We immediately comprehend it when it's articulated in a manner such as this. Everyone understands order and chaos, world and the underworld, when it's explained using these terms. We all have a palpable sense of the chaos lurking under everything familiar. That's why we understand the strange, surreal stories of Pinocchio and Sleeping Beauty and the Lion King and the Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast with their eternal landscapes of known and the unknown, world and the underworld. We have all been in both places many times, sometimes by happenstance, sometimes by choice. Many things begin to fall into place when you begin to consciously understand the world in this manner. It's as if the knowledge of your body and soul falls into alignment with the knowledge of your intellect. And there is more. Such knowledge is prescriptive as well as descriptive. This is the kind of knowing that this is the kind of knowing what that helps you know how. This is the kind of is from which you can derive an ought. The Tao is just a position of yin and yang, for example, doesn't simply portray chaos and order as fundamental elements of being. It also tells you how to act. The way uh, the Taoist path of life is represented by or exists on the border between the twin serpents. The way is the path of proper being. It's the same way as that referred to by Christ in John 14:6. I am the way and the truth and the life. The same idea is expressed in Matthew 7:14. Because straight is the gate and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it. We eternally inhabit order, surrounded by chaos. We eternally occupy known territory, surrounded by the unknown. We experience meaningful engagement when we mediate properly, appropriately between them. We are adapted in the deepest Darwinian sense, not to the world of objects, but to the meta realities of the order and chaos, yang and yin. Chaos and order make up the eternal, transcendent environment of the living. To straddle that fundamental duality is to be balanced, to have one foot firmly planted in order and security, and the other in chaos, possibility, growth, and adventure. When life suddenly reveals itself as intense, gripping, and meaningful, when time passes and you are so engrossed in what you're doing and you don't notice, it is therein that you are located precisely on the border between order and chaos. The subjective meaning that we encounter there is the reaction of our deepest being, our neurologically and evolutionarily grounded instinctive self, indicating that we are ensuring the stability but also the expansion of habitable productive territory, of space that is personal, social, and natural. It is the right place to be in every sense. You are there when and where it matters. That's what music is telling you too. When you're listening, even more, perhaps when you're dancing, when its harmonious layered patterns of predictability and unpredictability makes meaning itself well up from the most profound depths of your being. Chaos and order are fundamental elements because every lived situation, even every conceivable lived situation, is made up of both. No matter where we are, there are some things we can identify, make use of, and predict, and some things we neither know nor understand. No matter who we are, Kalahari Desert dweller or Wall Street banker, some things are under our control and some things are not. That's why both can understand the same stories and dwell within the confines of same eternal truths. Finally, the fundamental reality of chaos and order is true for everything alive, not only for us. Living things are always to be found in places they can master, surrounded by the things and situations that make them vulnerable. Order is not enough. You can't just be stable and secure and unchanging because there are still vital and important new things to be learned. Nonetheless, chaos can be too much. You can't long tolerate being swarmed and overwhelmed beyond your capacity to cope while you are learning and what you still need to know. Thus, you need to place one foot in what you have mastered and understood, and the other in what you are currently exploring and mastering. Then you have positioned yourself where the terror of existence is under control and you are secure, but where you are also alert and engaged. That is where there is something new to master and some way that you can be improved. That is where meaning to be found. So, the whole idea of this particular chapter, what Dr. Peterson is trying to say here, is you need both. You cannot just be always in order, and you cannot always be in chaos. When we say you cannot always be in order, it means you cannot be very uptight all the time, because if you're always uptight, then you are going never going to improve, you're never going to explore new things. You will just live in one particular way for the rest of your life. It can be boring and it's not as adventurous, and it does not give you uh, it will be boring. Basically, you will not live a very interesting life. Whereas if there is chaos, if there is a constant chaos in your life, then this unknown part is always going to be overwhelming. Like, you can take care of it to a certain degree, but after that it becomes unnerving for you. You will be always overwhelmed, you'll be always stressed, confused. So even that is not good. So we have to somewhere find a balance. We have to understand that not you cannot control everything, and also you cannot let go of everything. So you have to know what is under control. You have to know what are the things that you can control. Take control of those, take charge of those, and the things that you cannot control, let it be. You'll figure it out. That's the adventure. That is something for you to figure out for the later. right? So I think, yeah, that's what I want to say. Thank you so much. Take care.